I'm Nolan Brooks, and this is Nightledge Chronicles. Last time, we showed you the blood already buried in New York's ground. The massacres, the slavery, the riots the city tried to forget. Haven't seen part 1 yet? Stop right here, go watch it first, because this one hits different with that story fresh in your head. Because this time, the blood doesn't stay buried. It rises. A bridge that killed its own designer before the first stone was even laid. Men who dug beneath a river and came back paralyzed for life. Ironworkers walking on beams as thin as a sidewalk, hundreds of feet up, with nothing to catch them. And one Saturday afternoon in 1911, behind a door that wouldn't open, 146 people who never made it home. Let's go find them. By the late 1800s, New York had a problem no city had faced before. It was trapped on an island, surrounded by water, with nowhere left to spread. So it did the only thing it could. It went up, and it reached across the river. 2 engineering dreams would define the next 50 years of New York. One would connect Manhattan to Brooklyn. The other would send men climbing higher than any human had ever worked before. Both would be built on human cost. In 1869, engineer John A. Roebling was surveying the site for his masterpiece, a suspension bridge that would connect Manhattan and Brooklyn for the first time. While standing on a ferry slip, his foot caught in a rope. A docking boat crushed it. Doctors amputated his toes. Weeks later, he was dead, not from the injury itself, but from tetanus that followed. Roebling never saw a single stone of his bridge laid. His 32-year-old son, Washington Roebling, was suddenly handed the most dangerous construction project in America. To lay the bridge's foundations, workers descended into massive sealed chambers called caissons, sunk deep into the riverbed and pressurized with compressed air to keep water out. The men who worked inside them were called Sandhogs. Nobody understood what the pressure was doing to their bodies. In April 1872, laborer John Myers became the first to die from a mysterious sickness after surfacing: sharp joint pain, paralysis, then death. Within weeks, 2 more Sandhogs died the same way. Even Washington Roebling himself was struck down, partially paralyzed for the rest of his life. Doctors called it caisson disease. The world would later call it the bends. Bedridden and unable to visit the site, Washington Roebling directed construction from his sick room, with his wife, Emily Roebling, as his eyes, his hands, and his voice. She taught herself engineering, relayed his instructions daily, and made critical decisions herself. In 1883, after 14 years, the Brooklyn Bridge finally opened. Historians still disagree on exactly how many workers died building it. Official counts range from around 20 to as many as 40 by some contemporary estimates. What's certain is this: the bridge that connected 2 boroughs was raised on top of the bent, broken bodies of the men who dug beneath it. With the bridge finished, New York turned its ambition upward. Steel frame construction meant buildings could climb higher than anyone had dreamed, and by the 1920s and 30s, the race for the sky was on. The men who made it possible were ironworkers, walking on beams as thin as a sidewalk, hundreds of feet above the street, often with no harness, no net, and no safety line at all. A significant number of them were Mohawk ironworkers from the Conowake Reserve near Montreal, renowned for their extraordinary balance and nerve at heights that terrified everyone else. The Empire State Building rose in just over a year, at a record pace of more than 4 floors a week. Official records list 5 worker deaths during its construction, but historians have long questioned that number. At the time, the New York Daily News reported 14 deaths, and rumors circulated of dozens more. Numbers that were never confirmed, but never fully disproven either. What's beyond dispute is the danger itself. Men balancing on open steel, hundreds of feet in the air, trusting nothing but their own balance to keep them alive. While some men climbed into the sky, others were sent underground. In 1900, construction began on New York's first subway, dug mostly by hand, using a method called cut and cover, tearing open the street, digging a trench, then sealing it back up. Nearly 8,000 workers, most of them immigrant laborers, dug through solid rock beneath a city that never stopped moving above their heads. Dynamite was used constantly to blast through bedrock. In a crowded city with buildings, hotels, and pedestrians standing just feet above the charges. On January 27, 1902, a shed storing dynamite near 41st Street and Park Avenue exploded without warning. The blast tore through the Murray Hill Hotel, shattered windows for blocks, and shook the clock tower of Grand Central itself. According to the New York Times' own account, 6 people were killed and roughly 125 more were injured, many by flying glass. It remains one of the deadliest single accidents in the entire history of building New York subway. The Park Avenue explosion wasn't the only tragedy. Weeks later, a section of tunnel caved in beneath Park Avenue itself. Cave-ins, collapses, and accidents continued throughout construction. Estimates of the total number of workers who died building New York's first subway differ depending on the source, from around 16 documented deaths to broader estimates that run considerably higher once every accident across the 4-year project is counted. By 1911, New York's skyline was rising. Its bridges stood finished. But inside a 10-story building in Greenwich Village, hundreds of young immigrant women, many of them Italian and Jewish teenagers, sat crowded at sewing machines in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. It was a Saturday afternoon, near closing time. Workers were lining up to collect their week's pay. Nobody in that building knew they had less than 20 minutes left. A fire broke out on the 8th floor, likely sparked by a discarded cigarette in a bin overflowing with fabric scraps. Flames spread in seconds through paper patterns and cotton cloth. Workers rushed for the exits and found one stairwell door locked from the outside, a common practice owners used to prevent theft and unauthorized breaks. The only fire escape, flimsy and narrow, collapsed under the weight and heat. Firefighters arrived quickly, but their ladders reached only the 6th floor. In 18 minutes, it was over. 146 workers were dead, 62 of them from falling or jumping from the 8th, 9th, and 10th floors, in full view of the crowd gathered below. The factory's owners, Max Blank and Isaac Harris, were tried for manslaughter. They were acquitted. Prosecutors couldn't prove they personally knew the door was locked. Victims' families later received a settlement of just $75 each. But the public outrage that followed could not be undone. New York's Factory Investigating Commission, led by a young reformer named Frances Perkins, who would later become the first woman in a U.S. presidential cabinet, pushed through 36 new workplace safety laws within 3 years. Fire exits, sprinklers, occupancy limits, rules that protect workers in buildings across America to this day, were written in the ashes of that Saturday afternoon. A bridge raised on broken bodies, skyscrapers built without a single harness, tunnels dug by men the city barely acknowledged, a factory floor that became a grave for 146 workers, most of them teenage girls. New York didn't rise on its own. It was built, quite literally, on the backs, the lungs, and the lives of people history nearly forgot. The skyline you see today isn't just steel and glass. It's a monument to every one of them. And now, you know the real story of how this city was built. If this story left you speechless, drop a comment below and tell me, which part hit you the hardest? And if you want more forgotten history like this, Hit subscribe because New York still has a lot more buried beneath it.